The door swung open with a soft mechanical click, and Nyla Monroe stepped inside before she realized she had just ruined her night. She froze mid-step. The room wasn't hers. This wasn't the modest hotel room she had booked after a 12-hour flight and a delayed connection. This was something else entirely, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city in glittering arrogance, soft amber lights reflecting off marble floors, the faint scent of expensive cologne and leather in the air. And standing near the window, phone pressed to his ear, was a man who looked like he owned the entire skyline. He turned slowly. The silence hit like a gunshot. Nyla's heart slammed into her ribs as panic rushed up her spine. She was dressed in fitted black jeans and a cream blouse that hugged her body too well, her curves impossible to hide, her full hips and generous chest drawing attention even when she wished they wouldn't. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, curls framing her face, her skin glowing under the warm lights. Her voice cracked. She swallowed. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry. The man said nothing. He ended the call without a word, lowered his phone, and studied her with an expression so cold and controlled it made her feel like she'd walked into a boardroom naked. "Who are you?" he asked. His voice was calm. Deep. Dangerous. Nyla tightened her grip on her purse. "I thought this was my room. I must have mixed up the numbers." She backed toward the door, fingers already reaching for the handle. "I'll just..." "Stop." The single word halted her. Not because he raised his voice, he didn't, but because there was authority woven into it, the kind that didn't need volume. He took a step closer. Up close, he was devastating. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark tailored suit that fit like it had been sewn onto him. His jaw was sharp, his expression unreadable, his eyes a cool steel gray that missed nothing. "You walked into a secured suite," he said. "That doesn't happen by accident." Her pulse pounded. "I promise you, it was an accident." He tilted his head slightly, assessing her like a puzzle. "You don't look like security. Or staff." "I'm neither," she snapped, nerves flaring. "I'm just tired and clearly in the wrong place." Something flickered in his eyes. Interest. That annoyed her more than his suspicion. "I'll leave," she said, forcing calm. "Right now." She turned the handle. "It's locked," he said evenly. Her stomach dropped. She spun back to him. "What?" He didn't move. "It automatically locks." Nyla's breath came shallow. "Then unlock it." He watched her for a long moment, as if deciding something. Then, slowly, he crossed the room and pressed a panel near the door. The lock clicked open. She didn't wait. "Sorry again," she muttered, pulling the door open. "Wait." She hesitated. Against her better judgment, she turned. "What?" she asked sharply. "I haven't seen you before," he said. "You're not staying on this floor." "That's because I don't belong here," she replied. "Neither do most people who end up in my life," he said quietly. The words unsettled her. She met his gaze, something electric passing between them, something raw and unexpected. She hated that her body reacted before her mind did, that heat curled low in her stomach, that awareness sparked under his stare. "I really need to go," she said. He nodded once. "What's your name?" She paused. "I don't give my name to strangers who lock me in rooms." The corner of his mouth twitched. "Fair," he said. "I'm Harrison Vale." That name meant nothing to her, and everything to the world. She didn't know that yet. "Nyla," she said finally. "Nyla Monroe." She left before he could say anything else. The door closed behind her, but the air between them lingered long after she was gone. Harrison stood there, staring at the door like it had betrayed him. That never happened. He prided himself on control, of markets, of people, of himself. Women had always been simple. Predictable. Interested in his power long before they ever cared about him. But Nyla Monroe hadn't looked at him like a prize. She'd looked at him like a problem. And somehow, that stayed with him. Down the hall, Nyla leaned against the wall, chest rising and falling as adrenaline drained from her system. What the hell was that? She adjusted her blouse, suddenly aware of how tightly it clung to her curves, of how his eyes had followed her movements, not leering, but focused, deliberate, like he was memorizing her. She shook her head and forced herself to move. Men like that were dangerous. She knew better. Back in his suite, Harrison poured himself a drink he didn't want. He replayed the moment she'd stood there, defiant, nervous, beautiful in a way that felt unmanufactured. Her body had been impossible to ignore, full and feminine, confident even when she was flustered, but it was her eyes that had undone him. They hadn't begged. They hadn't calculated. They challenged him. He took a slow sip of whiskey. "Find out who she is," he said aloud, already reaching for his phone. For the first time in years, Harrison Vale wanted something he couldn't buy on impulse. And Nyla Monroe, walking back to her actual room, had no idea that a single wrong door had just changed the course of her life. Nyla tried to sleep that night, but her thoughts wouldn't stop spinning around him. The tall man with the cold gray eyes who seemed untouchable yet had stared at her like she had a secret only he could see. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, but it wasn't him. She wasn't even sure she wanted it to be. Yet, something about the way he had studied her, the quiet intensity, the way he hadn't tried to intimidate her, kept replaying in her mind. The next morning, she barely touched her coffee. She was already late for the conference she'd come for, papers in her bag, heels clicking against the marble floor as she left her room. And then it happened. She felt it before she saw it. Someone following her. Not too close, but precise, purposeful. She turned, and there he was. Harrison Vale. Her stomach dropped. She couldn't believe it. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice sharp. "I could ask you the same thing," he replied smoothly. "I was at the hotel lobby. You seem familiar." His gaze didn't waver, steady and deliberate. "I'm leaving," she said, trying to walk past him. "Not until we talk." Her pulse spiked. How could someone appear so calm, so sure? She could feel the electricity in the air, the tension rising between them like a live wire. "You don't understand," she said, crossing her arms. "I don't have time for this. You think you can just—" "I don't think," he interrupted, voice low, measured. "I know. And right now, I need to know you." Her laugh came out nervous, a little sharp. "You barely know me. Why are you chasing me?" "Because you walked into the wrong room, and I can't get you out of my head," he said, eyes darkening. Her breath caught. She wanted to step back, wanted to remind herself she was independent, careful, not someone who got caught up in fairy tales about billionaires. But her body betrayed her, heat spreading low in her stomach, her chest tightening under his gaze. "I'm not some curiosity you can just follow around," she said, voice trembling despite her attempt to sound firm. "Not a curiosity," he said, stepping closer. "Someone who makes me feel alive in ways I haven't in years." Her lips parted, caught between defiance and desire. She didn't answer. That was when he leaned slightly closer, not threatening, but intentional, as if every inch he closed was a test she didn't even know she wanted to pass. "You're infuriating," he murmured. "I don't chase anyone. And yet here I am." "I'm not your project," she said quickly. "I'm not something you can fix or own." "I don't want to fix you," he said quietly, almost vulnerable. "I just want to know you. That's all I need." Her eyes darted around the lobby, anywhere to escape the intensity. But he mirrored her movements, calm, composed, always just a few steps away, like gravity pulling her in without permission. "You're insane," she said, more to herself than to him. "And you're irresistible," he replied, softer now, a touch of amusement in his voice that didn't diminish the fire behind his words. Something in her chest twisted. She had spent years being careful, being practical, never letting herself get close to men like him. Men who had power, wealth, and influence enough to destroy lives without thinking twice. And yet, here she was, trembling in her heels, heart racing, body aware of every detail he hadn't even touched. Over the next few days, Harrison found excuses to appear wherever she was. Sometimes it was accidental, a chance meeting in the elevator. Sometimes it was more deliberate, like when he was waiting by the cafe where she sat with her laptop. And every time, he was calm, polite, disarmingly direct. "You look exhausted," he said once, handing her a coffee she hadn't ordered. "And you shouldn't be." "I can handle it," she said, trying to mask the relief that bloomed inside her chest. "No," he said, with a firmness that brooked no argument. "You shouldn't. Not when I'm around." She laughed nervously, brushing her hair behind her ear. "You really think you can just barge into my life like this?" "I don't think," he said, almost repeating his words from before. "I know." It became a game neither of them could name. He pushed, she resisted. He waited, she tested him. But with each passing day, their conversations grew longer, more intimate, more revealing. Nyla learned small things about him, the way he studied people in silence, the way he didn't raise his voice even when frustrated, the rare moments when he allowed a shadow of humor to touch his features. She saw the cracks behind his armor, fleeting glimpses of loneliness and vulnerability. And he learned about her. About her drive, her independence, the subtle defiance she carried like armor around her heart. Her laugh, quick and genuine, made him want to hear it constantly. Her intelligence challenged him, and her honesty left him unsettled in a way he had never experienced. One evening, after a long day of conferences, he found her sitting alone on a hotel balcony, city lights reflecting in her eyes. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said quietly, stepping beside her. "I like being alone sometimes," she said. "It's quieter than being around people who think they own the room." "Maybe," he said, voice low, "but some things are worth breaking the rules for." She glanced at him, startled by the suggestion, by the heat in his words, by the intensity in his gaze. Her pulse jumped. "And some rules," he continued, "are meant to be broken." She didn't answer. She couldn't. He reached for her hand. Not aggressively, not demanding. Just a tentative brush of fingers. And in that moment, something shifted between them, subtle but undeniable. Nyla pulled her hand back, caught between desire and caution. "You're impossible," she whispered. "And you," he said, with a hint of a smile, "are irresistible." Her chest tightened. She had never met anyone like him. And he wasn't letting her forget it. That night, as she lay awake in her own hotel room, every memory of him, the gray eyes, the calm power, the intensity that had left her breathless, replayed in her mind. And for the first time in years, she realized she wanted something she had no right to have, him. Harrison, in his suite across the city, poured himself another drink he didn't need, staring out the window. He didn't usually want people. He didn't usually let anyone close. But she had changed the rules. And he would not let her slip away. The following morning, Nyla tried to act normal, walking through the hotel lobby as if she didn't know he might be anywhere. But she felt the familiar weight of his gaze before she even saw him, a magnetic pull that left her stomach twisting. "Harrison," she said, attempting a brisk nod, hoping it would be enough. "Good morning, Nyla," he replied smoothly. "Coffee?" Her eyebrows rose. "You follow me around now?" "Not following," he said, with a small smirk. "Just coincidentally in the same place." She wanted to roll her eyes, wanted to remind herself that billionaires didn't chase anyone unless they had a plan, but there was something in his tone, calm and assured, that made her pause. That heat in her chest flared, reminding her of the first moment she'd met him, the way his eyes had scanned her body without judgment, the way his stare had lingered on her curves, her shape, without making her feel like an object. They walked together to the small cafe inside the hotel. He ordered without looking at the menu, his posture relaxed, yet perfectly composed. Nyla felt her chest tighten. There was something unnervingly intimate about sharing this space with him, something that made her feel vulnerable and exhilarated at the same time. "You're persistent," she said, sipping her coffee, trying to hide the nervous tremor in her voice. "I prefer the word interested," he said, eyes fixed on her. "Persistent sounds desperate." "Right," she said, forcing a laugh. "Interested billionaire chasing an exhausted woman." "That's exactly it," he said. He leaned back in his chair, studying her like a work of art. Not in a lecherous way. In a way that made her feel seen. Truly seen. The conversation shifted, light at first. Conferences, the city, small talk. But Harrison had a way of turning it into something deeper, asking questions that lingered longer than normal, probing her mind, her thoughts, her fears. "What about you, Nyla?" he asked, his voice low and even. "When do you allow yourself to rest? Or are you always running?" She felt a shiver go through her. Most people asked questions without meaning, just idle curiosity. But Harrison's words carried weight. Truth. Insight. I try to rest," she said slowly. "But life doesn't exactly pause for anyone, does it?" "Maybe it should," he said softly. "Especially for people like you." The words made her pause. People like her? Did he mean independent? Strong? Beautiful? Or did he mean too human to just slip into his world? She didn't have time to dissect it before he added, "I want to see the world from your perspective. I want to understand you." Her heart raced. Who was this man, following her into elevators, appearing at cafes, staring at her like he could read her soul? And yet she found herself wanting him to. Wanting him to see her, not just her curves, her lips, her chest that seemed to draw his attention even when she tried to ignore it, but all of her. Days passed like this. A dance of near collisions, stolen glances, subtle touches. He never pushed boundaries she wasn't ready to cross, but the tension was always there. In the way he stood close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. In the way his voice dipped low when he said her name. In the way his gray eyes lingered, unreadable, yet charged. One evening, Nyla was walking back to her room after a long day at the conference. She wasn't expecting him, but there he was, leaning against the wall outside her floor's elevator, hands in his pockets. "Evening," he said. "Late night." "Yes," she admitted. "It's been a long day." "Then come with me," he said. "I have a suite on this floor. Quiet. You can rest." Nyla froze. "I don't need your suite," she said. "You're tired," he said, calm and measured. "And I don't like seeing you like this." She hesitated. Her body screamed yes. Her mind screamed no. "Why do you care?" she whispered, barely audible. "Because I can't stop," he said simply. His eyes softened, though the intensity never left them. "Because I want to." Her pulse hammered in her chest. He didn't want her for control. He didn't want her as a trophy. He wanted her as Nyla Monroe. Every thought, every word she said, every expression she made, he wanted to know it, to understand it, to be near it. She started, then stopped. She shook her head. "This is crazy. You don't even know me." "I know enough," he said. "Enough to know I can't let you go." For the first time, she saw the man behind the billionaire mask. Vulnerable, raw, yearning. She wanted to retreat, but her legs betrayed her, her heels clicking as she followed him down the hall and into the suite. Inside, it was quiet, intimate. He poured 2 glasses of wine and handed her one. She accepted, her fingers brushing his for the briefest moment. The contact sent a shock straight to her core. They sat today. They talked. And slowly, the walls they both carried, the armor, the defenses, started to fall. "I don't usually," he began, pausing, as if unsure how to say it. "I don't usually let anyone in." "I can tell," she said softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "You're hard to reach." "I don't want anyone who isn't worth it," he said, eyes searching hers. "You are." Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to say no, to retreat into logic and caution, but she couldn't. The pull was too strong, the attraction too consuming. The night grew long. They laughed. They shared stories, small secrets, memories from years past. Harrison shared glimpses of loneliness, of pressure, of a life full of responsibility yet hollow in moments that mattered most. Nyla shared pieces of herself, cautiously, but enough that he could see her soul. By the time she left, neither wanted to say goodbye. But they did. Walking back to her room, Nyla's legs trembled, and she realized just how much this man had begun to occupy her thoughts, her body, her desire. And Harrison, standing in his suite, watched her leave through the glass door, already planning how he would see her again. Because for the first time, he wasn't just chasing curiosity. He was chasing her. And he wouldn't stop. Days passed, and the push and pull between Nyla and Harrison became unbearable. He appeared wherever she was, yet never in a way that felt forceful, only inevitable. Elevators, hotel lounges, even the small streets she walked for coffee, he was there, always calm, always deliberate, always watching. Nyla found herself torn. Part of her wanted to flee, to remind herself that billionaires like him didn't want real women, only control. Yet another part of her, the part that felt alive whenever he was near, wanted to lean in, to see what would happen if she allowed herself to feel. One evening, after a long day, he intercepted her just as she was stepping into her room. "Hey," he said, voice low, eyes unreadable. "I've been looking for you." She stiffened. "And?" "And I found you," he said, as if that were the most natural thing in the world. She shook her head. "This is insane. You don't even know me, Harrison." "I know enough," he said, stepping closer. His gray eyes held hers, unwavering, and she felt that pull again, the one she couldn't resist. "Enough to know that I can't let you go." Her chest tightened. I'm not yours." He paused. A flicker of vulnerability softened his expression. "I don't want you to be," he said. "I want you to choose to be with me." Nyla's heart raced. The desire to retreat battled with the urge to lean into him, to let him in. But just as her resolve wavered, reality crashed back. "I can't," she whispered. "You're a billionaire. You live in a world I can't touch. I'm not part of that life." "And what life is that?" he asked, voice gentle but insistent. "Where you run from what you want because it's inconvenient." She looked away. She wanted to say something, to protest, but the words stuck in her throat. He wasn't wrong. Her life had always been careful, structured, controlled. And yet, standing here with him, every rule she had ever followed suddenly felt meaningless. Harrison took a slow step closer. You think I'm cold because I'm careful. I'm cold because I've never met anyone worth melting for. But you're different. You're fire and calm all at once. You're alive. And I don't want to let that go. Her breath hitched. She had never heard anyone speak to her like that. Not with such precision, such raw honesty, such vulnerability that didn't make her feel like she had to take advantage or retreat. I can't do this, she said, voice trembling. I'm not ready for. Ready for what? He interrupted softly. To be wanted? To be seen? To be loved? Her chest constricted. He could see her so clearly. Too clearly. And that terrified her more than anything. I have to go, she whispered, backing away. He didn't stop her. He let her leave, though his gray eyes followed her every step. For the next few days, Nyla avoided him. She skipped lunches, walked different hallways, and avoided the elevators where she knew he might appear. But Harrison's presence was relentless. Not stalking. Not demanding. Just persistent. Finally, he cornered her at the hotel cafe again. This time, there was no casual excuse, no coincidental meeting. He simply sat across from her, calm, composed, unwavering. You can't run from this, he said softly. Not from me. Not from what you feel. I can, she said, though her voice wavered. You can try, he said. But I'll wait. I'll wait however long it takes. Her eyes filled with tears. She wanted to protest, to tell him that life wasn't fair, that the world didn't bend to desires like theirs. But her chest ached, and her heart refused to listen to logic. You shouldn't do this, she whispered. You shouldn't chase me. You'll ruin yourself. Maybe, he said, his voice low, intimate. Or maybe I'll save myself by saving you. Her breath hitched at the words. They weren't empty. She knew they weren't empty. He meant them with every fiber of his being. And then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed. A reminder for her early morning meeting tomorrow. Reality intruded, harsh and cold. She stood up. I have to go, she said, forcing herself to step back. Harrison stood as well, calm, composed, but there was a tension coiled in his posture that hadn't been there before. I'll see you tomorrow, he said. She wanted to believe that. She wanted to hope. But as she walked away, she felt the familiar pull in her chest, the ache of wanting someone she wasn't sure she could have. That night, she lay in her bed, unable to sleep, remembering the way he had looked at her, the way he had spoken, the way he had made her feel seen in ways no one ever had. Her body, her heart, even her mind screamed for him. And yet, she forced herself to push the thought away, to tell herself that it was impossible. Harrison, in his suite, poured a drink he didn't need and stared at the city lights. He had always controlled everything, markets, deals, people. But Nyla Monroe was beyond control. Beyond manipulation. Beyond anyone he had ever encountered. And that was precisely why he couldn't stop. The next morning, she discovered that he had been waiting for her outside her conference hall, calm, composed, a small smile playing at the corner of his lips. Good morning, he said, holding out a coffee. She froze, caught between fury and desire. You shouldn't be here. I know, he said, with a soft shrug. But I also know that I can't let you walk out of my life without trying one more time. Her chest tightened. Her pulse raced. She wanted to protest, to turn and flee, but she couldn't. Not this time. And as their eyes met, the air between them charged with everything unspoken, she realized the truth. She didn't want him to stop. A week later, Nyla had convinced herself she could maintain some distance. But distance was impossible with Harrison Vale. He found her in the quiet of the hotel garden, sunlight glinting off the city skyline behind him. Nyla, he said softly, hands in his pockets, calm as ever yet charged with an intensity that made her chest ache. We can't keep doing this half measure. You feel it. I feel it. There's no pretending anymore. She shook her head, tears brimming. I can't, it's too complicated. You're everything I'm not, everything I can't have. He stepped closer, reaching for her hand, brushing her fingers with his. I don't care about the complications. I care about us. And I will chase you, until you see what I see. Her heart lurched, and for the first time in her life, she stopped running. The words escaped her in a whisper. I don't know if I can. Then let me show you, he said, voice trembling just enough to reveal his vulnerability. Let me prove that this isn't about power or money. It's about you. Me. Us. For a long moment, she looked into those storm-gray eyes and saw something she hadn't expected. A man stripped bare of pride, of control, of walls. A man who wanted her, all of her, without conditions. And in that moment, all her fears melted away. "Okay," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Okay, Harrison. Show me." He smiled, a slow, genuine smile that transformed the coldness she had first met into warmth she could feel radiating into her chest. He knelt down in the sunlight, holding out a simple but elegant ring. "Nyla Monroe," he said, voice low and raw. "I don't want to impress you. I want to choose you, every day, every moment, for the rest of my life. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled over her cheeks as she nodded, unable to speak. Her heart was racing, her body alive with every emotion she had held back for years. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, Harrison. I will." He slid the ring onto her finger, and she laughed through her tears, trembling, feeling more alive than ever. He pulled her into his arms, and they stayed like that, letting the world fall away around them. A few months later, in an intimate ceremony overlooking the city skyline, they stood together, hand in hand. Nyla radiant, Harrison calm and proud, both of them fully present, fully themselves. As she looked into his eyes, she remembered the first night she had mistakenly walked into his suite, the fear, the confusion, the spark she couldn't name. And now, everything had led to this, love born from chaos, pursuit, and vulnerability. When he kissed her, it was the culmination of every stolen glance, every whispered conversation, every beat of their hearts that had brought them here. She had walked into the wrong suite and found the right life. And Harrison Vale, the cold billionaire, had finally found warmth he never knew he needed, inside her, beside her, for always. If you felt anything while listening to this story, if it made your heart race, made you smile, or reminded you that real love still exists, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button to support the channel, subscribe so you never miss a new romance story, and turn on notifications to stay close to every heartbeat, every twist, every unforgettable love. And I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Your city, your country, your corner of the world. Your support helps this channel grow, and your comments inspire the next love story.